How we doing, guys? And welcome to Best Soccer Coaching's first Coaching Corner podcast. Today's going to be a wee bit different. We've not actually got a football coach on, we've got a fitness coach. This is a long-time friend. Sometimes he's not been that much of a friend. He keeps on annoying me all the time, but got over that. And personal fitness coach, it's Jordan McCabe. He is owner of McFit Coaching. Definitely check him out with this video, and we're going to be talking a wee bit about fitness, how fitness can relate to football, and Jordan's background. So, how you doing, Jordan? All good today?
I'm good. Busy Fridays, so yeah, good day. How are you?
I'm not bad. Better being busy than no busy, innit?
True, especially during all this.
Oh, I know. It's tough going this and
Happy to be busy. Happy to be busy.
Aye, true. Right, we'll get fired straight into it. So, obviously, I said it's McFit Coaching. You do fitness training. What is it you specialise within? If someone was to go onto your page, what would they find out? What would they see, and what would you offer?
So, in terms of what I specialise in, well, you said that I'm a personal trainer, but we generally cover a bit of everything. But we all have what we call little niches that we either prefer to work with, or we have more knowledge in. For instance, currently my biggest intake is around kind of weight loss, dieting, mixed with sports performance, and people who generally either want to return back to how they used to feel, whether they played sports or PE in high school, however many moons ago it might have been. That's when they felt whether they're kind of peak performance, or they felt the most what's the word? They felt the best at that point in time. Yeah, they felt like the peak at that time, and they can come to you, ask you, this is how I feel at this point. Like now in here, however I want to feel like I did back then. So I tend to work with a lot of people like that. However, just like I did with yourself last lockdown, I tend to work with group training and group work, putting whether it's teams or it's boot camps or fitness classes through a series of different workouts and sessions, depending on what they're trying to work towards.
Good, so it's like a mixed bag altogether. Like you were saying, obviously, you worked with myself and Gifting Up Women, and I know certainly the girls loved that at the time, and it was a great session to put on. How long have you been doing the fitness stuff now?
Well, I mean, in terms of being in the fitness industry, about probably 6 years in the fitness industry, from when I first got qualified as a general fitness instructor slash spin instructor. However, a training age, probably since I was about 16, purely because my background at that point, jumping into senior level rugby, very scrawny kid. Getting up against.
I can back him up for that, guys.
Getting up against quite heavy guys. So that's probably the point where I'd say that I had definitely shocked to the system, but started lifting weights and resistance training and applying it to the sport. However, I always took a background to the sport, training and fitness. I just liked playing the sport. And never really took into account how important the fitness and actual training side was, and how applicable it was to the actual sport itself.
That's
quite a while.
Some people tend to forget that, don't they? How much the fitness goes with playing these sports. I know star athlete that you were, obviously not as good as myself, that's self-explanatory, but it's good to see the transition you made. It's good to see the transition you have made, but obviously known each other for at least 10 years now, going from school and that, and seeing how you've transitioned from playing into now helping people with their fitness. It's a good transition to see, and obviously you're doing well. For McFit, what is the plans for the future? What is it like your goals? Obviously we've got mini goals, wee stepping stones, but what's the big goal?
Well, obviously the current situation that we're going through, aka pandemic and multiple lockdowns after lockdowns. Just now, it's for me and my business and my training it's just survive and thrive. Keep going, keep moving forward as much as possible. Maintain standards, even though we maybe don't have the facilities that we had before. Due to not being allowed indoors. So for how long that the lockdown lasts and outdoor training, whether it's wind, rain or snow recently, keep moving forward and doing sessions in that until we're allowed back into facilities. Once we're allowed back into gym facilities, then I will hopefully be moving into a more suitable facility for myself and my clients that has more applicable equipment and technology, which is one of the reasons I will be looking to move to that, to work more in technology-based stuff that will help athletes, sports players and general population, because they usually won't have access to this type of equipment in top commercial gyms. So we can take them into that gym and hopefully do that and get more advanced with my own training, but also be able to open up other people's eyes in terms of how deep it can actually go and the importance of like this little stuff. But also make sure everything isn't always has to be like professional level, getting everything, whereas like kind of amateur, basic, beginner, like that big massive gap kind of closing in the gap with the kind of technology and apparatus that we're going to be able to use at this new gym. So that's my current business path. In terms of my training, it is again just maintain what I managed to build up until obviously lockdown. We've been lucky enough to get a lot of equipment and maintain a kind of home gym and continue training through some brutal sessions. However, my next step up is to take a big hit, so up the cardio. So over the next couple of months is my big fear, but that's kind of
I've been doing hit sessions recently. It's not the best.
So all I done last lockdown was hit and less weights. Now all I've done this lockdown is more weights, less hit. So I'm balance that one out.
But from what you're talking about the career goals, it shows that you're able to adjust straight away. That you're able to adjust to the fact of the lockdown. As you're saying, nobody really knows what's going on just now. So these adjustments that you're making, it's showing that you are still thriving. And the fact you've got the plans for the future, it always gives you that wee go at the end. It's something that obviously we're doing something similar, but it's good to see the fitness side of it as well. And I've seen some of the progress that you're doing with your fitness and you're getting on great. Something that I'll need to take up as well, because I'm not the fittest I could be now, but I'll definitely be looking into that and getting a wee bit of help.
Yeah.
So looking into, obviously this is mostly about football, our YouTube channel, our business. So see, when we're talking about fitness, how important would you say that fitness planning is for, say, even for like an amateur footballer, and then obviously you go to the higher levels where you're dealing with professional stuff like that? How important would you say that is?
Well, like I was saying there, like the gap between like professional level and like amateur, beginner level, up there you will almost never see them go through like the fitness tests and stuff. You like in the newspapers and like on Facebook and Google and stuff, you'll see like pictures of them going through like a medical test and a fitness test when they join a new team and things like that. But also you wouldn't see that at a beginner and kind of amateur level. You see like generic, like you run with the pitch sort of like. But at like the kind of top level, obviously they've got all these machines and stuff. It's a massive importance at the beginning as well, especially if you're looking to pursue it as a a full-time career, is to keep on top of your fitness, whether that's through the training with the teams or training on your own. Because hard work will always trump talent.
Yeah.
Talent only gets you so far, and the hard work's what's going to actually get you to there and beyond. Because you could have all the skill in the world, but have the fitness of absolutely a hippo. No offense to hippos, but they have the fitness of a hippo. And it's a massive importance that doesn't really get highlighted at a younger age, because at the end of the day, like, you're there to kind of obviously just play football and enjoy training sessions, and then when you go and you hear it's like a fitness session, you're like, oh crap, and then everybody just wants to wait to the end of the session, last 15 minutes of the coaching session, where they get to play, whether it's 7-a-sides or 5-a-sides, and they get to run about and actually play football, but don't have the big interest in the kind of fitness side of stuff. But the other side of it is also looking at resistance training stuff. A big debate lately has been, are children too young to do resistance training? And like, it's flat out no, they're never too young. It can only benefit them, so it doesn't hinder anything. So that doesn't mean, like, if you've got like a 6-year-old kid, go whack them with a barbell and go like, there you go, squat. It means that, for instance, especially when you're going through things like puberty, you are more prone to react to things like resistance training that a lot better. Because your body and testosterone levels, I won't get into the whole cellular level stuff, but you're more prone to adapt better if you catch it at the right age.
Because that's the thing, obviously everybody grows at a different rate and different ages and stuff like that. But look at yourself, you're over 6 feet and I'm still about 5'10", so there's a great example of that in the different training that we've done growing up.
Yeah, my big thing was that, like, I was always tall going through like primary school into high school, and then it was probably about 2nd or 3rd year that people, well, probably more about 3rd, 4th year, that people started to kind of catch up in height. And I was always one of the kind of fast kids during high school, like where it was sprinting. I'd always done football first, and then 2nd year I went into rugby, just because one of our mates asked me to come along and play because I was a fast kid. But that was just how I was at that time. And eventually everyone kind of caught up in terms of speed, size. I was still a scrawny kid, but everybody's kind of caught up in terms of size and speed. So it was not to say that my hard work didn't get me anywhere, but that was at the point where I was like, oh shit, I need to get a step up.
It just gave you that wee reality check. You're like, oh, I need to take this to the next level, because people are obviously hitting their different spots. Like, I've heard the story about actually Kieran Tierney, when he was in the Celtic Academy, he was going to get let go because he had an early growth spurt and then was stagnant for a bit and then had another spurt when he was about 18, 19. So it goes to show you, like, if Celtic were to let a talent like that go, then look at how much money would have lost and trophies, etc. And it's the same for any sport. If you're going to like fitness or if you're like into rugby, it's all about trying to find that peak age and that peak training. And it's good to see someone's actually like, right, we can train them at this age, but it's how they train properly. Because you find a lot of people are like, let's just not train them, it might damage them. But if you do it properly, as you're saying, it can actually be a great benefit.
Yeah, that was like, for instance, when we were doing football growing up, it was just a case of like running around the pitch, and everything was all kind of cardiovascular based, like just running around the pitch, sprinting up and down, which is great. But when it comes to, for instance, injury time, especially at a young age, whether you pull a hamstring, which is also very common, whether you damage your ankle, damage your knee, and you're 14, 15, 16, you haven't done a lot of kind of resistance training, whether that's with coaches, whether that's on your own, whether that's whatever, you're kind of back to square one. Whereas if you do that prior, and God forbid you do get an injury, if you do it prior to having an injury, you might, for instance, not have a as bad injury or as prolonged time of recovery because you've looked after yourself prior rather than dealing with just the effects and then trying to work on yourself.
Aye, it's like you're basically it's like preparing yourself for the worst type of thing. You're getting your body like set for it. Like as you were saying, like obviously we used to do run around the park and that when we were younger. Something that I was talking to a coach the other day about, they're like, when you're doing like these sprints up and down, like whenever in a football match and a rugby match do you need to sprint or like in a straight line all the time? You're never going to be going in a straight line. And it's something that I've started to see more adapting as like SAQs. So these are like different adaptation drills that's working on speed and agility, and it's different movements. And it's good to see that type of thing that you're talking about, like getting yourself prepared for it, because you find that a lot of these days that a lot more players are starting to get injured because they've not been brought up with that type of training. And it's good to see obviously people are starting to understand that, and you've got the expertise to show that as well. So as we're talking about, like, we've just kind of covered that a wee bit there, but as we're talking about the fitness for football, would you think like the importance of this is?
As I said at the start, is absolutely massive. The key things I would say to work on, like you just touched on there, the agility, massive. It's not just the agility in its own. Your body will adjust you, and like for instance, knees and ankles, your legs and that, yeah, like they will get stronger as you do it more often. You'll get faster, your reaction will get faster. However, speaking again from one experience, a lot more pitches are becoming 4G and asphalt pitches, which is therefore harder ground. There's rarely ever grass pitches being played on now.
That's something you see. Sorry to interrupt there, but that's something you see even for the top level. Like, remember you had like Jozo Simunovic for Celtic, for example. He couldn't play on 4G pitches because he'd get injured straight away. So that shows you that even the top levels getting affected by this as well.
And it's like, yeah, it's great. Like they're trying to make everything like kind of keep moving forward in terms of whether it's technology or like the game's just been able to go on due to weather, because obviously being in Scotland, it's not always able to go ahead. But everybody kind of sucked up and just done it anyway. But the knock-on effects to, for instance, injuries is they can exacerbate the injuries so much. So the importance in terms of football, resistance training, and fitness. When people hear fitness and football, they think, yeah, I'll just run. But you need to think about your obviously your joints and your ligaments in terms of strengthening, whether you are then looking at doing more plyometric based stuff. So box jumps, squat jumps, lunge jumps. If you can do a proper lunge, then progress on to jump lunges. Just to note that.
There's a few of the boys in the group that are they too keen with that, aren't they?
So
Mr. 100K.
Only do that if you can do proper balanced lunges, then progress on to jump lunges. And then you can look at things, for instance, loading resistance terms, like barbell squat. And then you can look at things like partial squat and then partial squat jump, and then you start to advance on from there. But you start with like the basics, like the plyometrics, then the agility drills. Those are the things that are going to kind of quote unquote give you the edge. Yeah. For instance, you might then be able to jump 5-10 centimeters higher than the person you're up against. For instance, a centre back working on plyometrics is massive, because the centre back wants to get the ball for a header and then lose to a striker. Or then a centre back lose to anybody in a header. Or same goes for a midfielder or a striker for any aerial balls. And then you've got obviously the kind of outsides and strikers in terms of agility. But the thing is, like, football nowadays isn't as black and white as that anymore. Where it's like, yeah, just get kind of beefy centre backs. Just get the kind of beefy centre. It's the same with rugby. Like nothing's like that black and white anymore. It's like you get the beefy centre backs are that are just going to stand there like brick walls, and nobody's going to get past them. Apart from the wee tiny striker who just bolts it past everybody. Like everybody's obviously more advanced now, and the earlier you kind of catch on to that, the more chance that you're going to give yourself if you're looking to take this from a more professional point of view. If you're looking to advance on with that.
That's something you see quite a lot. Like we see even players adapting to different positions. Like you've got like the likes of like Van Dijk. Look at him as a centre back. He could easily play midfield as well, and just go and meet fitness. You could even put him out wide with how fit he is, and that's a great example of how he's managed to train his fitness, but he's also used the plyometrics to be able to be that dominant centre half that isn't just the big brick wall, but has also been able to use the game and play the game well.
You like, in a sense, you want to be more kind of utility player. You want to be able to adapt to different positions, because then, for instance, say somebody else comes into the team, like you're not going to get dropped, or you're not going to have to then half your time that you're playing for somebody else to get swapped in. You can easily go, right, I'll be able to get this player to go from here. And if you're looking to go for a beginner, amateur, that kind of semi-pro, then professional level, is you want that you want to be a player that can be utilised in different positions, because then you can be used more. And it's
about making yourself essential, isn't it? Like making yourself essential to that team. Like you need to be that first name in the team sheet, no matter what position you're playing.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like translating that drug, that's not going to say you're going to put a prop in a fullback or anything like that. And if you don't know rugby terms, then that's fine. But like that doesn't mean, like, for instance, a centre back or a goalkeeper is going to go striker.
Mm-hmm.
There's still things that translate over into our positions. So yes, you still specialise. For instance, us, we cover a lot of things in terms of personal training. We cover a lot of things, but most of us will specialise in certain things. And it's the same as a position in football. You could specialise in one thing, but be able to cover a lot of different positions. So when you come to actually training for football, or training for sport in general, fitness-wise, you want to be able to add in things like plyometrics, resistance training, agility, obviously your cardiovascular, very important because you spend most of the game moving around. So that doesn't mean like just become an absolute gym bro and ditch the cardio and just start lifting weights, which happens a lot, which I experienced from when I started training for senior level. When I heard about weights and decided to start lifting weights, is the cardio wasn't getting looked after. I just relied on my natural speed and cardiovascular at the time. And that took a hit a couple of years down the line, where people were the same kind of speed as me. I was no longer as fast as I was. I was no longer as fast as I perceived I was. But I was stronger and I was bigger.
It's just trying to find that balance.
But it's you want to find the balance. So this isn't me saying jump straight to the weights and ditch the cardio at the training. Is find the balance for whether it's 2 days, 3 days that you mix in with the training you're doing in football. So if you're training, for instance, a Tuesday and Thursday or whatever days it is, then days in between, use them as resistance training. If you then play on, for instance, a Saturday, you play in a Saturday league, you want to look at maybe doing a Monday resistance session, Tuesday maybe you're in football, Wednesday resistance training, Thursday maybe you're in football, Friday a break, and then Saturday go into the games. In terms of training and fitness wise, obviously diet and nutrition is another talking point. But yeah, I'd say that's again a massive importance. I tend to rabble on when I get into it, but yeah.
That's what podcasts are for, isn't it? Well, just as you said, nutrition there, that's actually our next point. It's talking about how important nutrition is for, as we're saying, these different levels. So even amateur, going up to that semi-pro and then professional, how important that is within team sports like rugby and mostly specialising in football.
I can still remember the first time I got a quote-unquote diet plan. It wasn't even a diet plan, it was more like, here's what to have for breakfast. And it was like a 600 calorie breakfast at the age of like 16, 17. And as fast as your kind of natural metabolism is at that point, you were just kind of told, like, here's bread, here's eggs, sort of thing. Like, you weren't told, like, why.
There you go.
It was just like, this is what you've got to have for your breakfast before you come to the game, before you start training for the game. In terms of nutrition, to nutshell it, you want to look possibly more down the lines of what we call peri-workout nutrition. By the way, I'm no means a nutritionist. However, through my college qualifications and further continued learning, got level 3 in nutrition and very competent in terms of sports nutrition and applying it. Just a wee disclaimer there.
I've seen some of his meals, guys. He is doing well. He's not like he's
currently just trying to put together some meals. But trying to cook better than the chicken, broccoli, and rice diet.
I certainly cook better than me, I'll tell you that.
So you want to look at things, maybe nutshell and peri-workout nutrition. That's essentially looking at your eating windows. If you have, for instance, if there's a parent listening to this and you have a child who's like 6, 7, sub 10 years old, it's not applicable. You don't have to force carbohydrates down your child's throat 2 hours before they go to a training session or a game. However, if you're kind of that teenage, kind of mid-teenage age, probably from about 14, 15, 16, nutrition could be something that you could look into. This is essentially looking at eating windows, whether you eat the night before or you eat, for instance, 90 to 60 minutes before you are active. This allows it time to break down your body. And what I mean by that is, for instance, if you're eating 60 to 90 minutes before you go to a game, then this is all person dependent. So if you don't like running on a full stomach or whatever, then eat it the night before. But talking from a 60, yeah, speaking from a 60 to 90 minute before, there's knowledge here. Carbohydrates into your diet just before then, because that allows your body time to actually absorb the carbs into the system. Carbs being your main energy source for the body. So if you have them in before the game, then you're more likely to be fully energized. As long as your coaches, whether it's Lewis or whatever, isn't making you run rampant before you actually get into the game and knacker you out, like it's happened to me quite a few
Don't worry, I know too better to do that.
Like I've had in a few games.
Right, both is.
And then you're not going into the game absolutely shattered before that first whistle goes. Yeah, so
that was like the staple of our childhood, playing sport, wasn't
it? Shatter you at training, and then there you go, that's a 90-minute game. Yeah, so you want to look at things like your carbs and maybe a protein intake beforehand. And it just gives your body enough time to absorb it in and take it and actually get the benefits from it. And then same with, for instance, everyone's had orange slices now at half time. And then also the more older you get, it's more like people looking at Lucozade and whatnot. From what's actually in Lucozade, there's things like glucose, for instance. It's glucose, and that's what you're kind of getting from the oranges as well. So that's how we went from oranges to a bottle of Lucozade. Whether it's orange Lucozade or whatever, it doesn't matter. That's essentially what it is. It's glucose. It's kind of sugar rush for your body. So that kind of quick half-time hit of sugar and glucose into the body can help you kind of pick up a kind of second wind into the second half. And then if you're looking at the back end of it, if you are obviously of the older age, the legal 18-year-old age, and you're jumping out to a pint straight after the game, fair enough, but make sure you have some food afterwards, because your body has just exercised. It's just went through strenuous activity. Whether you have played in goals for the full game, doesn't matter. You're still being slapped with a ball. You're still being up in aerial balls, and you need to make sure that you're still replenishing your body afterwards. This goes the same for training sessions as well. For instance, if you're training Tuesday and Thursday, that kind of Thursday, you could have had an absolute beasting from your coaches, or it could have been a more technical standpoint where you're looking at your game plan for the weekend. You're then looking at the Friday, and if you're someone who doesn't like running about on a full stomach, for instance, you could then look at the Friday night and, for instance, carb load on the Friday night. That doesn't mean just go have a Chinese or whatever, because that'll not bode well with the next morning. But you want to be able to utilise the carbs from the night before into the body. If you're someone who doesn't like to eat in the morning, then eat the night before. It could be any kind of carb source that you want. If you're eating the night before, then I would say something more kind of wholemeal based, whether that's wholemeal bread, pasta. You can even have cereal, because I know a lot of people, it's quite a controversial subject, but a lot of people like to eat cereal mostly at night. So you can have that as well. So anything kind of wholemeal the night before. By that time, it's been in your kind of system throughout the full night. Then, for instance, if you have a kind of 10 o'clock kickoff, then you already have a lot of carbs in your system for the night before, and you can go utilise that when you go into the game. And then make sure you have something like an isotonic or a glucose sweet, or in rugby they tend to use jelly babies and sugar coated sweets because it has extra sugar on it. It's a bit more strenuous, but it gives you that kind of sugar kick that you need for that kind of half-time point to go into then in the second half.
That's good there. It's obviously showing that there's different variations of what people can have, and it's not like this is what you need to do, this is what you have to have. It shows that there's different options out there, and no one needs to stick to like something that they don't want or a type of pattern that's not suitable for them. Wee bit of technical difficulties there, guys, but we're back with Jordan. We're just going to finish off here with a wee bit about lockdown. So we're going to be talking about how you've dealt with lockdown yourself, how you've dealt with the fitness, and how you feel that in general people are dealing with it, like fitness-wise, and like the way that any advice for anybody, and how to deal with their fitness, or even in general how to deal with this lockdown.
Yeah, so personally, I think this is, for me, mentally one of the hardest lockdowns, purely because there isn't like an end window in sight. Mm-hmm. So there's not to say there's no light at the end of the tunnel. We just don't know any fixed period of time where we'll get even the kind of slither of normality that we had prior to this back, which I would take over, obviously, lockdown any day. In terms of training, we've been lucky enough to kind of acquire a lot of equipment last lockdown, which we didn't actually foresee this one coming, but it was just lucky that we were getting a last lockdown, although it didn't come in time for the gyms reopening. But thankfully we got it anyway. So as tedious as home workouts are, some sessions you're up for it, some sessions you're not. It's just the way it goes. And even our mate, that I train with, he'll even say the same. Like some sessions you have an absolute hummer, and it's just nothing's working, nothing's going the right way, nothing feels good. You don't feel strong, you don't feel as if you're moving right. And then you have other sessions where you just absolutely love it, and it just went brilliant. It's the same in terms of like football games. Like you have games you just feel like, oh, nothing went well that game. When in reality, it never went as bad as you thought it did. Mm-hmm. It just never felt as good as your best ones did.
But just try to find the positives within each session.
At the end of the day, the way we need to look at it is, the way we look at it is, we're lucky to kind of continue training. Same with my clients. They have sessions where they're up and down, but at the end of the day, we need to kind of look at, we're still in a spot where we're still generally in a good mood, still being able to train. From a professional level, like I'm still allowed to train with clients on an outdoor basis. I think you're allowed to do one person from another household distance. Don't quote me on that, but from a non-professional standpoint, I think you're allowed to do that. So if you are, then if you're struggling with your own kind of fitness and exercise, like there's plenty of classes and Zoom calls and lives and that out there, but make sure you're getting to the outdoors. That's one positive I would say that's coming from these lockdowns. There's a lot more people are getting outdoors rather than jumping from work to home. If you are working from home and you're either listening to Lewis's podcast for your kids or partners or whatever, then make sure they're getting outdoors. Make sure you're getting outdoors if you're working from home, because it can only benefit you at this standpoint. And if you're looking for an exercise-wise point for football, then I would look at maybe starting to do stuff more plyometric based. If you've got a back garden, then maybe look at bodyweight exercises to strengthen your body before you look at anything resistance wise. And then single leg stuff. So a lot of single leg work will be beneficial to anybody, whether that's football, sports related, because you might have a strong leg and a weak leg. You most likely will. If you're someone who's left-footed and plays football, then most likely your right leg will be your weaker one, or one that you can't, not so much weaker, but one you can't control as best. So use this time to kind of work on those weak points. I'm saying left-footed because I'm a left footer. So I was going
to say, I think my right foot's the better one. I was going to say that.
I'm a left footer, so I'll always back for the left footers. But yeah, so look to work on those kind of weak points that you maybe don't have time to do when you're, for instance, at school or at a training session where you're working on more team-based or position-based stuff. Try and work on points that you feel aren't your strongest point, and spend more time on that. Or if you do a session that's all your good points, then try and finish on your weaker points, or vice versa if you prefer it that way. But that's probably as much as I've got to say on lockdown before I get too in deep with it.
Well, just taking points from that there, it's all about, like we were talking about earlier on, try to find that balance, and always try to take that little bit of positivity to get yourself through these times as well. Just to wrap it up there, before we go, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, K-Mac Plasters, today for helping getting this sorted. Check them out, their link's going to be in the description, best plasters in the area. Make sure you check out Jordan's Instagram, and all his other social media is going to be in the description as well. All of our social media is going to be in there as well. The new website's coming up soon. We've got a podcast due every week, guys. And just before we head, I want to say thank you, Jordan, for coming on.
You're welcome. Absolutely welcome. And any questions, then you can shoot them via Lewis, and Lewis can ask me, and I'll give them the answer, and they can shoot it back to you, or you can come to me directly. Any training videos and anything like that you want me to look at, then I'm more than happy to have a look. I'm always happy to critique and better someone's form. I'm always happy to do that.
Okay, we've got a good pal that gets that quite a lot, didn't he?
Yes. Yes. No, I'll short of
that. Make sure to subscribe, guys. If you like the video, give it a like as well. We'll be seeing Jordan in a few weeks' time as well. He's going to be coming back on. So if you liked the podcast today, keep an eye out because he's coming back. Cheers again, guys, and I'll catch you soon.